My sister-in-law's DNA kit to ruin my marriage backfired when her son's test revealed shocking truths about her own family. I met my husband James in our late 20s, and we soon fell in love. We married after 2 years of dating and have had a lovely and quiet life together ever since. We welcomed our gorgeous kid, Nathan, and felt like the ideal family. I felt nothing could separate us until Sarah, my sister-in-law, decided to poke her nose into our life. Sarah and I have never gotten along. From the minute James introduced me to her, it was evident that we were not going to get along. I'm not saying I didn't try, but Sarah made no effort to care. She accused me of wanting to overshadow her at her wedding because I was dressed in a cream-colored gown. To clarify, Sarah intentionally chose cream-colored outfits for all of her bridesmaids. However, on our special day, it became about me stealing her spotlight. From then on, it was a never-ending game of sarcastic remarks, backhanded compliments, and petty behavior. If I wore a new dress, Sarah would say, "It's cute, but I liked it better when I saw it in the store last year." If Nathan accomplished something, she'd minimize it by comparing him to her own son, Tommy. Despite this, James and I always attempted to ignore Sarah's petty behavior. We wanted Nathan and Tommy to grow up as close as siblings. Things, however, took a nasty turn this past Christmas when Sarah decided to create havoc in an unexpected way. For Christmas, she gave Nathan one of those popular DNA test kits. At first, I didn't think much about it. Nathan has always been interested in science and enjoyed knowing about his family history. Nonetheless, it was not a typical present for a child. That night, James approached me privately. He told me Sarah had made some weird, almost cryptic comments to him, such as, "It's about time you got some answers," and "The truth always comes out." It didn't take long for me to put the pieces together. Nathan has green eyes, whereas James and I have brown ones. Of course, anyone with a basic understanding of genetics is aware that recessive features such as green eyes can pass down through generations. But Sarah had been making subtle passive-aggressive statements for years, implying that James might not be Nathan's father. I was infuriated. Not only was she awful to us, but she was also involved with my son. We agreed to allow Nathan to take the test if he wanted to, knowing that the findings would confirm what we already knew. Nathan is our son, and the test would reveal nothing more. Nathan was enthusiastic about the science underlying the DNA test. He was excited to learn about his lineage and family roots, so we assisted him with the process, and he completed the test. Meanwhile, Sarah's son, Tommy, had been observing everything with great curiosity. Tommy, a curious 14-year-old, decided he wanted to take a DNA test too. Sarah's husband, Todd, thought it would make a good family activity, so they got a kit for him as well. What began as harmless curiosity quickly escalated into a family nightmare. Nathan received his results a few weeks later. Everything was as expected. James was clearly his father. But then we got the shock of our lives. When Tommy's results arrived, it was discovered that Todd was not his biological father. Sarah had an affair, and Tommy was not Todd's child. Todd was devastated. He had reared Tommy as his own, unaware that Sarah had been unfaithful. To make matters worse, Todd sought a paternity test for their younger daughter, who was just 7. The results confirmed his greatest fears. He wasn't her father either. Sarah's life was collapsing in front of her eyes, and it was not a quiet or private collapse. The entire family found out, and the consequences were harsh. Todd filed for divorce and left the house within a few days. The irony of the situation was hard to ignore. Sarah's attempt to undermine my marriage exposed her own lies. Tommy was the person who suffered the most. Nathan was also infected. He and Tommy had always been close, and seeing his cousin suffer through this upset him terribly. He began asking questions about why Tommy's father was no longer present, and it hurt my heart to hear how concerned he was for his cousin. Sarah's life deteriorated over time. Todd pressed for full custody of the children, seeking to limit Sarah's involvement in their lives. Sarah was a wreck at family gatherings, with a pale face and red eyes from crying. She appeared defeated. Sarah contacted me one day and requested assistance. She wanted me to talk to Todd and persuade him to lighten off on the custody agreement. She was trying to save what was left of her relationship with her children and turned to me for advice. At first, I was stunned. How could she have the arrogance to ask for my help after everything she had done to destroy my marriage and cause havoc at every opportunity? At first, I ignored her calls and refused to aid her. But as the days passed, I found myself wondering about Tommy. He was the real victim in all of this. Despite the fact that none of it was his fault, he bore the brunt of the pain. James, of course, warned me to keep out of it. He was confident Sarah had made her bed and would now have to lie in it. Part of me wondered whether I could help the youngsters involved find some serenity. It was not their fault that their mother made poor decisions. So I'm at a crossroads, confused about what to do. Should I help Sarah or let her suffer the repercussions of her actions? What would you do in my position? Update 1. I wanted to provide an update on what has occurred since my previous post, and I hope it puts some light on the complex situation we are dealing with. Sarah continues phoning me, and it's becoming exhausting. I expected her to cool down or back off soon, but she hasn't. She's relentless. On one especially horrible day, she called me 3 times in a row, leaving lengthy, sobbing voicemails. I could hear the despair in her voice, but I couldn't feel much pity. At one point, my husband James became so frustrated that he couldn't take it anymore. He called her himself. James rarely loses his temper, so when he called, I knew things had gotten out of hand. From across the room, I could hear his voice as he snapped, telling her he was tired of her insulting me and manipulating our family. After that chat, things became worse. Sarah's tone changed again. She began sending me multiple text messages, alternating between pleading for my assistance and accusing me of attempting to ruin her life. She was pleading for my help, telling me how much she wanted me to talk to Todd and repair things. The next thing I knew, she was calling me manipulative, alleging I was jealous of her and her family and intended to destroy her marriage. Throughout all, my main focus has been the children. They are innocent in all of this, but they are suffering the most. I can't quit thinking about Tommy and Nathan. Tommy's real father's identity must have been traumatic to him, and it's evident he's having difficulty processing it. It's difficult for me to see him suffer through this without being able to help. Nathan, on the other hand, isn't sure what's going on but feels something isn't right. We have explained it to him, but he is still too young to understand anything. We had a family gathering a few days ago, and Nathan wanted to play with Tommy like he did before. They used to be quite close, inseparable actually. However, when Tommy arrived, he was distant, quiet, and scarcely engaged with Nathan. Nathan wanted to play with him, but I had to make excuses, explaining that Tommy was weary. Meanwhile, Sarah continues to write me these long, theatrical notes. She messaged me yesterday, stating she felt betrayed by our family. I don't see how someone who was unfaithful might feel betrayed, yet she still appears unable to accept responsibility for her actions. It's always someone else's fault, mine, James's, Todd's, and never hers. James believes we should step in and assist Tommy, especially because he and Nathan are so close. However, he is also concerned about the ramifications of being too involved in Sarah's situation. We've been trying to strike a delicate balance between supporting the children and maintaining our personal tranquility, but it's been more difficult than we expected. Todd has begun to contact James, further complicating the situation. He's been trying to figure out what happened and wanted to chat about it. James reluctantly agreed to meet him for coffee. When he returned, he appeared more conflicted than ever. Todd is naturally devastated. He told James that he feels like his entire life has been a lie, and he is now trying to figure out how to co-parent with Sarah after everything that has occurred. Talking with Todd simply made James feel more torn. Todd is a kind man who is only trying to do his best for his children, despite his awful situation. After hearing Todd's point of view, James feels even more divided about how to proceed. He wants to help, but we both know that getting too involved will drag us deeper into Sarah's chaos. It's difficult to determine what the appropriate decision is. Every time I see Tommy, I have an intense desire to help him. He's simply a child caught up in this mess, and he doesn't deserve it. Nathan continues asking why Tommy always appears so sad, and it kills my heart that I can't give him an honest reason. The more I think about it, the more divided I am between wanting to intervene and being terrified of being drawn into Sarah's tumultuous world. At the end of the day, all I want is to safeguard the kids. Tommy and Nathan deserve more, and it hurts to see them suffer as a result of their parents' sins. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm hoping we can find a way to resolve this without causing further harm. I'll keep you updated on what occurs, and once again, thank you for your ongoing support. Update 2. A lot has transpired in the last several days, so brace yourself. It's been a lot for all of us, and I'm not sure how much more I can take. First and foremost, Sarah chose to proceed with an official medical paternity test. She was dissatisfied with the results of the home DNA kit, arguing it was not a reputable source for making such a critical decision. To be fair, home tests have a margin of error, and I suppose she was hanging on to what little hope she had left. However, the results did not change. The medical paternity test verified the previous one's results. Todd is not Tommy's or his daughter's father. Sarah simply dug herself an even deeper hole. I was not surprised by the conclusion, but there was no space for uncertainty. Todd, in particular, appeared to be bracing himself for the worst, yet when the medical results arrived, I could tell he was still devastated. He appeared crushed, as if the last fiber of hope he'd been holding on to had been wrenched away. He had previously told James that he didn't expect any miracles, but there was always a small part of him that hoped the test was incorrect. Todd became more withdrawn after receiving the news. Todd apparently began researching after obtaining the results and tracked down the individual with whom Sarah was allegedly having an affair. Todd told James that this man was Sarah's co-worker. He had suspected their relationship for a long time, but Sarah always dismissed it, claiming it was only work-related. Todd now understood everything. He remembered Sarah and this man being abnormally close, attending work parties together and messaging late into the night. She was continuously making explanations, assuring Todd that it was something innocent. But suddenly it seemed that all of our suspicions were being confirmed. Todd decided to face him. He traced him down to his residence and entered without alerting anyone. Todd, according to what I learned later, was not in a healthy mental state. He was upset, angry, and searching for answers. Things suddenly got out of control. The man initially disputed everything, but Todd refused to accept it. It quickly escalated into a shouting confrontation, and it wasn't long before it became physical. Neighbors heard the disturbance and phoned the cops. By the time authorities arrived, Todd and the man had been bruised. Todd was arrested for assault and now faces prosecution. It's a mess. James had to travel to the police station to assist Todd. He posted bond, but Todd is now facing major legal issues. He claims that the fight was provoked, but this will be difficult to prove in court. This whole thing is spiraling out of hand, and I can't help but believe it's all because of Sarah's decision to keep the truth hidden for so long. Todd is breaking down, and it's heartbreaking to witness someone who was always so collected break down like this. Meanwhile, Sarah is urgently trying to contain the damage, but it is far too late. Todd has petitioned for full custody of the children. Sarah is in a panic. She's trying to persuade everyone that Todd is the problem, referring to him as a psychopath and citing the fight as proof of his instability and danger. She's frightened Todd will take the kids away, and she's lashing out at everybody who doesn't support her. Todd has been talking of moving to another state with the kids to put some distance between them and Sarah. He believes the children deserve a fresh start away from the mayhem. But I am not sure. I appreciate his desire to protect kids, but separating them from everything they know could be more harmful than beneficial. Legally, it will be a difficult battle. When I last saw Sarah, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she kept saying that everything was coming apart, that everyone was attempting to take her children away. It seemed as if she were experiencing a panic attack. Even so, she continues to regard herself as the victim in all of this. At this point, I believe we have no choice but to become involved. We're already caught up in this mess, whether we like it or not. James believes we should back Todd and assist him with the legal issues he is experiencing, especially since Todd appears to be the more stable father in all of this, which I think is a great idea. I'll keep you posted as things go, but for the time being, we're simply holding on and hoping for a resolution that doesn't absolutely wreck these children's lives. Update 3. I have a lot to say regarding all that has transpired since my last post. First, let's discuss Todd and the man Sarah had an affair with. You already know how Todd was detained after the confrontation became physical. Initially, we believed Todd might face significant assault charges, but the man opted not to press charges. Todd told us that this man wants to disassociate himself from the entire affair. He undoubtedly realized that getting engaged may make matters worse for him, both personally and professionally. Although this individual admitted to the affair when the police arrived, he has since severed relations with both Todd and Sarah. In some ways, that chapter of the story has come to an end, which I believe is for the best. Todd does not need to continue battling with someone who clearly has no regard for the consequences of his actions. Many people have questioned me about Tommy's sister and why I haven't said more about her. She's like Nathan, she's been informed what's going on but doesn't completely comprehend it. Outwardly, she does not appear to be as impacted. Deep down, I believe she is mourning in her own way, but she has not voiced it as much as Tommy has. Tommy is older and more mature, so he understands what's going on, and it appears to be hitting him harder. That's why I focused more on him, even though both children are plainly victims of their mother's behavior. James and I are here to support both of them, regardless of who their parents are. Tommy's situation has deteriorated significantly. Some students at his school have started bullying him, which has resulted in fights. It doesn't help that Sarah is flooding his mind with beliefs that everything is his father's fault. Tommy knows his mother cheated on Todd and that Todd is not his real father. Despite this, Sarah has told him she did it because Todd was mean to her. This demonstrates that she would sooner ruin and divide her family than fight for it. That is, in my opinion, an awful thing to say. Todd, thus far, has fought for his children. All he wants is to get away from Sarah, which anyone can understand given how manipulative, devious, and unfaithful she is. I don't understand how the person who caused so much pain and turmoil can portray herself as a victim while continuing to damage the lives of others. But I suppose it's in her nature. She did what she did because she is a horrible person who would continue to act this way to the end, hoping to gain something from it all to make herself feel better. This is yet another reason why James and I believe a child should not grow up with an unfaithful parent. It is the worst possible model and influence for proper upbringing. We hope Todd gets complete custody because if Tommy continues to be affected by his mother, things will not go well for him. His younger sister will suffer considerably more because she is still young and does not completely comprehend what is going on. Over time, Sarah is likely to manipulate her and turn her against Todd. There's also a potential she'll end up acting like Sarah, believing her actions weren't that horrible and blaming others. At this time, both James and I are completely on Todd's side, and the children's as well. First, Todd truly wants to be a good father to them, but we also believe that neither Sarah nor the original father is what the children need. Their best hope right now is with Todd, and we'll help all three of them in any way we can. Even the whole of James' family, including my in-laws, is on Todd's side. Sarah's parents are not pleased with what she has done. For example, the other day, we chose not to attend a family gathering. On the one hand, we had another commitment, but we also wanted to escape the turmoil surrounding Sarah, and it was hard to watch Nathan go through everything Tommy is going through. At the occasion, Sarah began with her customary monologue, attempting to portray Todd as the story's villain. But my father-in-law intervened and told her to stop because she was only inflicting more harm and sorrow to everyone. He pointed at Tommy, who was sitting across the room, and asked, "Don't you understand the consequences of your mistakes? Don't you see how you're still hurting everyone? Your children, and we, do not deserve this. Accept your mistakes and behave maturely." My mother-in-law then went on to say that she had not trained her to act this way and hoped her granddaughter would not follow in her footsteps. Sarah threatened to leave the event with the children, but no one in the family supported her decision. My father-in-law said she could leave if she wished, but the grandchildren would stay. He told her that both kids needed to stay away from the commotion she had started and was still causing around her, and that he would bring them back later. Sarah left, and the children stayed to play. Later, my father-in-law called Todd to invite him to spend the day with them, and he didn't hesitate. My father-in-law reported the kids seemed considerably better, but it wasn't a miracle cure. Still, being separated from their mother is the greatest thing for them right now because her poison is hurting them, something no one in the family wants, except, obviously, Sarah. Sarah doesn't appear to care about her children, only about how she is seen and not losing anything. A true mother would not use these games to harm her children. Instead, she would endeavor to protect them from everything. However, a mother would not have cheated on her spouse. Still, here we are. Update 4. With the newest developments involving my sister-in-law and her children, better times are on the horizon for this family. To begin, my sister-in-law discovered Todd had been invited to my in-laws' house after she had departed, and she was not pleased. She went to my in-laws' house and challenged them because she believes they should be on her side rather than Todd's. My in-laws stated that they would always side with the children in this case, and that if Todd was beneficial to them, they would support him. This, in some ways, fueled Sarah's rage. After shouting, she grabbed an item from the front garden and flung it at her parents' car window. To summarize, it's a distinct issue. My father-in-law sued her, and she had to pay for the window. I mention this because it is relevant to the custody case later on. Todd's divorce went fairly smoothly. There was ample evidence that Sarah had been unfaithful, therefore Todd came out top in the divorce. However, no one really wins in a divorce, especially one prompted by infidelity. At the very least, Sarah could not take any more from Todd than she already had. I wouldn't say it was easy to obtain full custody of the children. Quite the reverse. But I'll tell you what happened. Todd won. It wasn't simple because Todd is not the children's biological father. He did, however, succeed after months of judicial proceedings. Some family members, including James and my in-laws, testified to Sarah's character. The car window incident did not help her case, nor did the fact that the judge was willing to contemplate handing complete custody to the father rather than the mother, which is unusual. The final nail in the coffin was the biological father's actions. This father simply showed up for selfish reasons. To avoid paying Sarah's child support if she had custody of the children. Sarah no longer has custody, so she has no grounds to sue him because she has no child-related expenses. I'm not sure Todd can demand anything from his biological father, but he hasn't indicated to us he intends to. According to my understanding, The biological father formally gave up his parental rights, as if it were an adoption. I'd like to add that I haven't followed every aspect of the case, so this is only my basic idea. The crucial issue here is that Todd has custody of both children. This has already begun to have results, particularly for Tommy and his sister, who have started therapy. Sarah can see her children, but only with supervision. My in-laws, on the other hand, can see the kids anytime they want, as long as Todd makes the decision, and so can we. This has also benefited Nathan, who is now able to play with Tommy as previously. There is still much work to be done, but things are gradually returning to normal, which is all that matters. I'm not sure what to tell you about Sarah. I haven't had much communication with her in a while. I blocked her and haven't heard anything from her since. She sends sporadic messages to her parents and James, but their relationship is pretty icy right now, and I'm not sure if it will ever change. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.